This is a creepy story about a young girl who was found under a bridge. The police were faced with the main question: did the victim jump down on her own, or was she deliberately pushed? Thanks to surveillance cameras, they found the answer and were able to restore the chronology of that night. In this video, we will tell you what happened. April 1st, 2000, a man was driving across a bridge in Burlington, New Jersey. On the ground below, he noticed what looked like a human body and immediately called the police. Detectives arrived and saw in front of them a young girl who had no documents on her, making it impossible to establish her identity right away. The situation initially looked like a suicide, as it appeared she had jumped from the bridge. The height of the bridge was about 35 meters, roughly the height of a 10-story building, so it was clear that the fall had severely damaged her body. The police were forced to wait for the autopsy results to get more answers. While medical experts worked to identify the deceased, the police released her description in local newspapers and news outlets. Soon, Rachel's ex-boyfriend recognized her from the description and confirmed that the body belonged to 21-year-old Rachel Elizabeth Cioni. Rachel was born on April 18, 1978 in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. Her parents divorced when she was very young, and a few years later her mother passed away. Rachel and her two brothers went to live with their father and his new wife, who treated them well. The family was not rich, but they made do. Rachel went on to attend Bucks County Community College in Newtown, where she studied psychology and later took acting classes. In order to pay for college, Rachel worked at a nightclub as a dancer. She initially hid this from her family, but eventually they found out and disapproved. However, they acknowledged that she was an adult and had the right to make her own choices. Despite the criticism, Rachel continued with her job, which earned her a good income, around $400 per night. She lived frugally, sharing a house with several other tenants and driving an old, worn-out car. Now that we know about Rachel's background, let's return to the bridge where her life was tragically cut short. The police quickly ruled out suicide as blood was found on the bridge. An examination revealed that the blood belonged to Rachel, which meant she had most likely been attacked before being thrown from the bridge. The police then focused their investigation on the nightclub where Rachel worked. The first lead came from the club's management, who mentioned a former employee that had been fired for harassing Rachel. The police investigated him, but he was quickly cleared of any involvement. The next person of interest was a regular customer of the club named Jack Doinoff, a 35-year-old businessman with a solid reputation in his community. Jack was a frequent visitor to the club and Rachel was his favorite dancer. He often left her large tips and paid her extra money just to talk. The police began to reconstruct the events of March 31st, 2000, the night Rachel died. She finished her shift at the club, changed into jeans and a sweater, and then left. Jack, who had been drinking heavily that night, offered to drive Rachel home. A friend of Rachel's, named RBC, also joined them in a separate car. However, Jack became extremely drunk and began knocking on the doors of the club after it had already closed. A passing police officer noticed him but was convinced by the security guard and manager of the club that Jack was a regular customer and posed no danger. Rachel then agreed to take Jack to a hotel, and this was the last time she was seen alive. Afterward, the police began to collect evidence. Blood was found in Jack's hotel room, but it wasn't enough for a DNA test. The breakthrough came when the police examined surveillance footage from various cameras. One of the cameras showed Jack's pickup truck on a highway leading to the bridge. In the truck bed, they saw something resembling a body. The footage quality was poor, but it was enough for the police to make Jack the primary suspect. A truck driver who had been on the same highway that night confirmed seeing Jack's truck. He described the man as having gray hair, combed back as though he had just taken a shower. The truck driver didn't report the incident immediately because he didn't think it looked suspicious at the time. Further investigation showed that Jack had driven the truck to the bridge with Rachel's body in the back. About 25 minutes later, Jack returned and the body was no longer in the truck. With all this evidence, the police arrested Jack and charged him with murder. Forensic analysis showed that Rachel had been strangled before being thrown off the bridge. The investigation suggested that Rachel had agreed to take Jack to his hotel room, expecting to talk to him as she usually did and earn some extra money. However, Jack became enraged when she rejected his advances. In a fit of rage, he attacked Rachel. Believing she was dead, Jack decided to dispose of her body, but he had trouble lifting her. During the struggle, she fell to the ground, leaving bloodstains at the scene. He then loaded her body into the truck and drove to the bridge where he dumped her. Jack's defense lawyers tried to discredit Rachel by suggesting she had relationships with multiple lovers and had connections to a dangerous biker gang. They also implied she had a drug addiction, though none of these claims were substantiated. The evidence against Jack, however, was overwhelming, and the prosecution made sure to present a strong case. On November 29, 2002, Jack was found guilty of murder. The court sentenced him to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 30 years. During the trial, Jack continued to claim his innocence, but his chances of winning an appeal were slim. His lawyers attempted to argue that Rachel had died in Pennsylvania, and therefore the case should be tried there. However, the court ruled that New Jersey had jurisdiction, as that's where Rachel's body had been found. Despite all of his appeals, Jack remains in prison today. He will be eligible for parole in 2032, but given the strength of the evidence against him, it's unlikely he will be released early. This case highlights the tragic and senseless loss of life at such a young age. Rachel Cioni was just 21 years old when her life was stolen from her, and while Jack Dunov remains behind bars, the memory of Rachel's life and death will continue to haunt all who knew her. We will never know what she could have achieved, but we do know that nothing can ever justify the premeditated murder of an innocent person. Thank you for watching.